So welcome to another session of book reading. And this is again, we'll continue with Runaway Success of Thaddeus Lawrence. And let us start with chapter 1. So yesterday we finished prologue and we understood what? We understood about the ultra resilience. Happens in the art of living advanced course also. They will ask you to raise your hands for see, keep in the ground. Then after 10 or 20 counts, it will go up a bit, then up a bit, then up a bit, and it will go on for 20 minutes. And during that time, you'll find that your hands are very stiff and you are not able to endure this kind of stress that is happening in your hands. But ultimately, this and then you go up like this. So this is called endurance. And why do we do that? That is to uh, see how much resilience we have. So let us start with the book. This is the story of Mr. Thaddeus Lawrence, which who is one of my coaches and who is one of the trainers, master trainer under the success there. Let us start with chapter 1, Sahara. So he has run 4 deserts, Sahara is the uh, driest desert that he has. That he attempted this. Not only attempted, he succeeded in completing this race. So he says, just over a century ago, a young administrator in the British colonial service undertook a formidable 2,500-kilometer trek across an ancient and hazardous slave route in Africa's Sahara Desert. Hans Wischer subsequently published Across the Sahara about his journey and went on to become one of the most acclaimed explorers of his era, alongside the likes of Sir Ernest Shackleton of Antarctic fame. Recounting his run-ins with menacing tribes, warlike marauders, scorching heat, and an endless search for water, Vischer later said of his journey, I had entered it frivolously, like a fool. I left it as one stunned, lost by the deadly chemistry. I have seen too close. Classical accounts describe the Sahara much as it is today, a vast and forbidding barrier that arouses a juxtaposition of apprehension and awe, misgiving and marvel. Vast sand dunes, stone plateaus, gravel plains, and dormant temperatures can cool off dramatically at night. Merciless winds, dust-laden gales, and sand storms add to some of the elements to contend with. The mystic of the Sahara oozes pure romance, and many an intrepid traveler, beguiled by dreams of camel caravans on simmering dunes, has succumbed to its lure, and now, fearlessly on fearlessly or foolishly, I join their ranks. I tell myself that my participation in the Sahara race is born of logic and good sense. The more I talk, the more I become convinced that this is a good idea. Perhaps this is the reason for my public declaration to persuade myself more than anyone else that I have whatever it takes to successfully complete such an insane undertaking. As I speak about the realities of the race, it becomes clear what I need to do. Step back, delivering books, running, spirit, by graphics. I clear with the inner workings of the mind's channels, studying the thought processes and beliefs that keep them tick. Curious to find out more about my fellow competitors, I look up their biographies. What kind of backgrounds do they had from? What is their racing pedigree? Where have athletes I am ever going to meet? There are men and women who have taken part in every imaginable endurance event, ultra marathons, triathlons, adventure races, extreme mountaineering, polar expeditions, imaginable climate, suffocating humidity, wilting dryness, polar freeze, blistering heat, breath sucking high altitude. And then there is a bunch of other rookies and me. Our combined subsided somewhat. I take stock of my state of preparedness and register for an ultra marathon. I figure such an event would form an invaluable part of my training. The Sundown Ultra Marathon in Singapore is a double marathon, two loops of a 42 kilometers marathon circuit with an added challenge of 6 p.m. race start. The average runner like myself can expect run through the night and cross the finish line at sunrise. Next, we would trade the heat of the sun for the higher relative humidity at midnight. Additionally, we would be disrupting our body's sleep and wake cycles, known as the circadian rhythm. In essence, be in vigorous exercise. Limbering up at the start line, I engage in some idle chatter with a spectator who has come to support her husband. Both of them have flown all the way to Singapore from Colombia. Just like my husband, he is also very excited but also very nervous. Is this your first ultra marathon? Me, yes. Women, still very much with a big smile. Oh, it's my husband's first one too. How many standard marathons have you run? Me, two. Women, slight frown appearing. Two in this year? Me, no, two ever. Women's smile completely vanished, eyes wide open. Only two? Me, yes. Women dropped jaw. No. Me, yes. Women with conviction. You can't do this ultra marathon. Me, why not? Women maternally. You are not ready. My husband has run 26 marathons in London, Berlin, Johannesburg, and Boston. And he only now feels ready to run an ultra. You have only ever run two marathons. You are not prepared for this. Me, excuse me, I have to go now. I understand the lady is not being deliberately discouraging. In fact, she probably has my interest at heart and is genuinely concerned. personally responsible manner and am as adequately prepared and competent as the next person to complete it. I inhale and exhale several times to let go of any remnants of deputized energy and refocus my mind on the race. I have all but forgotten about the exchange. The race is a struggle, but not because of the distance. The distance is just the setting for a battle against boredom and sleep. The heaviness of my legs do not compare with the heaviness of my eyelids. The thoughts that threaten to breach my psychological limits are not about giving up from pain, but giving into slumber. I am driven to move so as to keep myself awake. And it is the promise of a good snooze following. I set a personal best performance. I make the cutoff by more than 30 minutes and later discover that over half the field did not finish. As with many of my dreams and goals, my participation in the Sahara race has drawn its fair share of naysayers, doubters, and skeptics. That is perfectly fine with me. What is more important and relevant is for me to nurture my own positive self talk and take a necessary actions to bring them fruition. Bring them to fruition rather than waste energy. The offer immediately. The question is, but will I or will I not? Support system. I quickly learned that behind every successful ultra racer is a team of people. Embarking on such an undertaking is more than just the 6 days of racing. Part of the draw is the time commitment is therefore not insignificant. But much more than that is the training that needs to fit around normal daily activities, work engagements, and family responsibilities. Fellow Four Desert Club member Diego Carjabal recalls the sacrifices. My biggest sacrifice has been time. Since I started training and preparing for the incredible journey, I have missed countless dinners, birthday celebrations, and get togethers with friends, and given up time that I could have spent with Australia-based Argentina is still being divorced. I mean, this would not come very easy. I had to engage in this process. Whole family, my wife, my son, little girl, and I were all working as a team for this purpose. I am very lucky. My wife was very supportive. The team comprises family, friends, colleagues, backing is most empowering when the people in my life understand that my activities are aligned with my passion and purpose. And it is so me to be doing this that I will let nothing stand in my way. Once they are convinced of my compelling desire and what drives the risk taking, it is a responsibility to demonstrate my resilience and hardiness. Hardiness is the sense of control and commitment towards a particular challenge of life in general, abandoning the creature comforts and prudent predictability of normal life for the vicissitudes and precariousness of desert foot racing, however brief, regulated, or intoxicating, will surely put the average family member. Since stress is self into the arena is to experience being in the zone of sporting performance. When his skills and challenges are at level above average, a broader positive experience emerges. And vital to this flow state is a sense of control over danger and difficulty. To get this sense of control involves a mix of cognitive processing and physical training. Like most first timers, one of my main concerns is whether I have trained enough and prepared sufficiently. This is where my first race mentors step into the picture. Liu Ka Shin is the first Singaporean to have completed the entire four deserts series of races. I sent him an email with a ton of questions and am pleasantly surprised when he replies with a detailed catalog of training suggestions, strategy recommendations, and all round general advice. A week later, he invites me to an informal gathering at the home of Australian Elaine Chew, with whom he has raced alongside in a previous desert event. Elaine was magnanimously open up her home to would-be racers and first-time competitors. I lap up all their equipment and gear tips, food and nutritional pointers, stories and recollections. Listening to these people with more experience and wisdom, I ease into my training regime. The experts caution that it is better to arrive at the start time having undertrained than overtrained to a level that exceeds our physiological limits. The latter can result in diminished performance, fresh injuries, or exacerbate ailments. I am comforted and feel more assumed about my state of preparedness and level of trainings. More so than training, feet is the watchword for the Sahara race, forming the foundation of all that holds us up. They handle all the pressure, hold all our weight, and take a beating day in and day out. They are tough, solid, and my feet will swell 1 to 2 sizes larger. Past participants corroborate this view. The extended amount of time on our feet in the tremendous heat causes them to swell, moving constantly over uneven terrain while carrying weight causes the feet to rub against the shoes and duly increases the risk of blisters. A member of eventual winner in the team category, Team Trifecta, offers another piece of salient advice. Get your feet up the moment you get into camp each day. Don't worry about the socializing. There will be plenty of time for that. Your feet come first. The campfire is an integral part of these events. After a hard day in the desert, nothing quite beats the camaraderie and blisters or other food problems that can bring my race to a grinding halt. On my back with my legs propped up on a pack or against a tent pole will also help them relax and facilitate the return of blood flow. As departure date looms, my packages start arriving via different shipments and I gleefully open them like a little boy on Christmas dawn. They contain all the fridge dried foods and electrolyte drinks that will sustain me during my sojourn in the Sahara. This is all very new territory for me. Up till now, my approach to nutrition has been to eat and drink anything and everything in moderation without any need to take heed of details. During a previous medical consultation, my doctor put me on a machine that reads our body age. It read 18. A body age half my real age no doubt accounts for my hitherto laissez-faire approach to nutrition. In an effort to prevent my cockiness from getting the better of me, I read up on health advisory and articles to help me plan my meals. The self supported nature of the race adds another facet to the groundwork. What I eat, drink, wear, and use for the entire duration will have to be carried in a pack on my back. I literally weigh my options and transfer food from their original packaging to last minute purchases, weigh my pack, consider whether to take or remove a piece of kit. The challenge is to strike that balance between comfort and weight. I want that additional dessert, but do I want to add that extra 300 grams? I could do with a warmer sleeping bag, but won't that extra thickness be a substantial addition? The nerve continues to build, and I diffuse my anxiety by ensuring anything is in order, that all my kit is accessible, and I know where everything is, that I have all my mandatory gear and am carrying an optimal load. In between all that, I find time to breathe. But as it is so often turns out in life, our best plans often go awry. I do not get off to the best of starts. On the awkward flight to Cairo, booked to share a double bed with no duvet with a male stranger. I call to mind the wisdom of celebrated global Renaissance woman, Maya Angelou. I have learned that no matter what happens or how bad it seems today, life does go on and it will be better tomorrow. I have learned that you can tell a lot about a person by the way he or she handles these three things: a rainy day, lost luggage, and tangled Christmas tree lights, and instantly feel better or at least more empowered. I arrange for a hotel plumber to fix our water system, an electrician to mend the television, and a cot with to bed. The next day doesn't get better. Buses have been arranged to take us on a 10-hour drive from Cairo to Lisbon. A plane goes. Let's lose the down of some mechanical part. During the wait by the side of the road, I realize we must be entering some high risk area when I spot a heckler and a coach submachine gun slung under the jacket of our us to dilapidated bus depot down the road where we all gathered to wait an uncomfortable few hours for a replacement bus. By the time we arrived at our camp, 8 hours past schedule, it is well past 1 a.m. From dream to desert village. On our very first morning in the Sahara Desert, we awake to an arresting sunrise. Standing outside my tent to breathe in the crisp air and witness the fiery ball of life, breaking the stillness of daybreak. Everyone takes in the glorious morning, sporting a cheery countenance. But everyone on this 250-kilometer mission is all too aware this is no luxurious dalliance in the Sahara. Breakfast, race brief, and maiden snapshots over and done with, we amass under the Sahara Race 2009 banner to embark on what would be a momentous 7 days. The mood is anticipatory during the countdown to race start. This is it. Years after I first saw a documentary on desert racing, years after I first dreamt of myself in the Sahara, years after I first within an hour, the entire field of 127 competitors is spread out along several kilometers of desert track. I take it slow. Kahashin's caution of don't go too fast, too hard, too early, ringing in my ears. Many drop out from such multi-day events primarily because they push too hard off the starting blocks. Overflowing with zeal and eager to burn some pent-up nervous energy, they go hell-bent for leather early on, only to find out their initial vim and vigor cannot outlast the distance. By then it is too late and they are out of the race. But it is easier said than done. What I want to accomplish here is to successfully complete the race while staying in the best possible condition. I did not come here to outrace other people nor achieve a particular time goal. Nonetheless, I do have a second goal, and this is to not come in last. This part of me that doesn't want to lose can be a real distraction at best, put put my performance in jeopardy at worst. It takes discipline not to speed up and pass people when they are there for the taking. This is a race of attrition, and I must not allow myself to get sidetracked and sucked into ego stroking competition. It is early days yet, and I need to self regulate and focus on what I am here for. By the second day, everyone is in his own world during his own race. Gone is the chatter of stage one. We are now just putting one foot in front of the others. The white desert of yesterday liberal in our use of hand sanitizer. I do not have any doubt. Really regret my decision not to bring any. I have bungled on a few fronts. The first is equipment. I have a pack with a strong hip belt. From experience trekking in the mountains, I learned the value of a strong hip belt in distributing weight from the shoulders. So I had deliberately picked one with such weight on my shoulders. But I had not actually attached a full pack on my back. What a fundamental error. It is a classic greenhouse gaffe, and I am annoyed with my oversight. I am also using a collapsible water bladder with a 3-liter capacity. I simply fill it, put it in the pack, and drink straight from the tube extension without having to physically retrieve water bottles each time I want a drink. It's a clever, hand free method of drinking on the go. The inconvenience comes during refilling. The pack I am using does not have a separate compartment or external pocket to hold the water bladder, so it is stuffed in the rucksack together with all the other gear. This means that at each checkpoint, the entire pack has to be taken off just to refill the bladder and all my kit readjusted so that I can fit it back in the pack. It wastes time and valuable energy. I learned more about shoes. I heeded the advice about getting larger footwear to accommodate the probability of swollen feet and now look like Ronald Mr. McDonald with a green to match. But I wish I had paid more attention to the details. Larger sized shoes are longer shoes, but swelling feet extend in breadth more so than in length. So I should also have opted wider shoes. I also miscalculated the amount of water and type of food that I would be consuming. Back to back in the humid heat of Singapore, I would normally drink the daily recommended amount of water, and in the 2 marathons that I previously ran, I became hungry midway through and longed for something sweet and sugary. Bearing this in mind, I packed a menu incorporating daily desserts, planning to indulge in frizzy dried custards with berries and rice pudding. But the long days of activity in the desert generate a consumption of over 8 liters of water each day. The unusually high amount dilutes the body of its natural salts. Instead of craving sweets, my body scream out for savory foods. At each dinner time, I spawn my unappetizing packets of desserts and gape longingly at the Japanese contingent with their assortment of noodles, miso soup, and seaweed. On the third evening, I decide it is not worth continuing the log of dessert around and chuck the entire lot. There is no option other than to laugh at my cluelessness. A sense of humor certainly comes in handy at such times. There is no point beating myself up over a few mistakes. The best thing to do is to learn from my own blunders and mistaken assumptions. I make a mental note to observe more keenly the practices of the experienced participants, ask more questions, and engage more fully my role models and mentors. The next time I will. Fellowship in the field. Sniff on. 8 of us assigned to share a tent named after the first pharaoh of Egypt's fourth dynasty, credited and developing the pyramid into its true form. Snefon built the red and bent pyramids at Dashur, two of the four largest pyramids known to have been built in Egypt. Snape-on enjoyed a very good reputation by later generations of ancient Egyptians. Considered a benign ruler, highly unusual. Ancient literature repeatedly depicts him as a ruler who would address common Egyptians as my friend or my brother. If there were an environment where one can develop an instant bond and trust with another person, then a desert race would be the ideal backdrop. The camaraderie and friendship that form out of adversity at a four desert event is the stuff of legend. Living in close proximity and subject to conditions to which the average person is not accustomed, a deep sense of esprit de corps is immediately established among participants. This fellowship manifests itself in many ways. Someone waiting for you at the end of a stage to help carry your pack to the tent, or checking in on you during the evenings or early mornings, or offering you his shady spot at a checkpoint. This is service leadership at its best, and UK based Japanese competitor Takehiko Kano best exemplifies it. He leads a team of four, but his attentiveness extends far beyond his team. His contribution is an encouraging slap on the back on an enthusiastic cheer, a reminder to keep hydrated. More experienced than his teammates, it would be much easier for him to power on at a quicker pace. Instead, he chooses to slow down and hang back to work with his struggling friends. It is no wonder that he is eventually conferred the Sportsmanship Award in recognition of his good heart. Total strangers find themselves a tower of strength for one another, and guidance is doled out freely. Even though we are all grappling with our own personal predicaments, we somehow discover that little extra to give someone else a shot in the arm. This has served as the best way to overcome challenges and difficulty. Focus onwards. In a multi stage endurance event, there is plenty of time to get to know our fellow competitors, especially for those of us at the back of the pack. While the front runners and serious athletes disappear into the horizon within minutes of the start, the rest of us settle into our relative positions and a familiar pattern establishes itself. This hardly changes as the days wear on and we continually cross paths. Start 3 hours earlier at 6 a.m. with 8 checkpoints strung between camps. This arrangement ensures that event resources are not overstretched and that there are sufficient volunteers. The top runners are predicted to complete this stage between 9 and 10 hours, while the tail end of the field will struggle to meet the 3 p.m. cutoff time the following day. The mixed emotions range the spectrum from dread, fear, uncertainty, and anxiety to joyfulness, exhilaration, excitement, and elation. This will be an epic day with lots of tears expected. Runners spill away to a speedy start. The plan is to take advantage of the full morning to cover a good distance before slowing down when the heavy heat descends in mid morning and energy begins to flag. I rapidly find myself at the back of the pack. A pain is gradually surfacing at the top of my right angle, and I am afraid of aggravating it. I do not remember sustaining his brain, not causing any injury to it. A cursory inspection reveals no signs of inflammation or trauma. I am puzzled and more than little concerned. A foot injury is probably one of the worst things to sustain in a foot race. I pray that it will go away, or at least remain nothing more than a discomfort. Only later do I discover the cause. I had tied my shoelaces too tight. What an idiot. Around 11 a.m., the first of the top 15 begin overtaking me. The start of each stage usually sees them tearing away into the distance, so to finally witness them in racing mode in a fine sight to behold. They are literally moving at a speed 2 or 3 times faster than the rest of us. Their relentless pace and strong form fills me with admiration, and we shout encouragement and slap high fives as they go by. John Bonalac is a 64-year-old New Zealander. Prior to the Sahara race, he had completed several notable endurance events, including the Marathon des Sables, Arctic Circle Race, and Jungle Marathon. It all began more than 10 years ago when his son Daniel registered for a desert race and asked if dad would sign up as a volunteer to take pictures for him. John thought about it for a moment and decided he would come along, not to volunteer, but to compete alongside his son. And the rest, as they say, is history. John is racing once again with Daniel and his girlfriend Jennifer. They encourage one another by bringing a little something special that will be brought out only in mid race. Knowing how much Daniel loathes mosquitoes, John has a mosquito head net for him. Meanwhile, Daniel has carried a coffee strainer for Jennifer, who in turn has logged lemon for John to enjoy with his tea. It is amazing how little things can go such a long way in uplifting our spirits. Stepping off a steep ridge, we enter a small village, our first signs of civilization. Here at the site of the checkpoint 4, locals serve us with what is the best tea I have ever tasted. It is tastes of compassion. I open my heart in deep humility and gratitude to savor every drop of the dark liquid forcing its way down my throat. It restores my spirits and I can smile again. The offering of the village gives way to the ugly realities of hardship and scarcity. It is more the simmering anger than the impoverishment that stupefies me. I pass by doorways of women and children, their extended open palms and feeble smiles tinged with hostility. A volunteer sounds a note of caution. Some runners passing through have had items including torches and food packages nicked. Even here in the middle of nowhere, children have learned to beg and steal. I feel much better as I leave the village and head back into the desert. Dusk casts a mesmerizing reddish orange on the small dunes. The entrancing effect instantly vanishes the moment it dawns on me that I have lost sight of the pink flags. These little flags placed on the ground mark the course. In general, the course is marked at intervals of between 25 to 100 meters depending on terrain and visibility. At night, the course is marked with flags pasted with reflective material and glow sticks. These markers are our lifeline and make the difference between staying on track and getting hopelessly lost. I retrace my step and return to the past known marker. There is no one as far as the eye can see. So I attempt to find the logical course that might snake its way around the entire area of small dunes. I look at the ground to follow the footprints and earlier runners, but it is no use. Still quite close to the village, There are footprints everywhere: shoe prints, slipper prints, mule prints, cattle prints, and unidentifiable prints crisscross their way in every direction, making it impossible to get my bearing. Moving between the mounds of dunes is like getting lost in a maze. I its con- play it conservatively. After heading in one orientation for 100 meters, I return to my starting point and try a different route. As the minutes tick by, the sun inches further down the horizon. My sense of desperation increases by the heartbeat, and I am deeply aware I will be enveloped in darkness in no time. Spending the night lost in the open is not my idea of one. Neither is the open option of returning to the village with its unfriendly inhabitants. I am caught between the proverbial rock and a hard place. On one return trip to the last marker, I hear the unmistakable sound of an engine. As the four-wheel drive rounds the corner of a sand mound, my heart leaps with joy and I can almost scream in relief. It is an official race vehicle and in it, racing the planet CEO, Mary Adams. She confirms my suspicions that the villagers' kids have taken all the flags and is now replanting the markers. I harbor a remote hope that she will give me a lift for at least part of the way to make up for the additional distance I have covered. I'm not surprised when that invitation is not forthcoming. I pick up my pace and try to keep up with the vehicle as they stop every several meters to stick new flags on the ground, but it is no use. Soon the red rear lights disappeared in the cloud of dust. I continue along alone. No sooner do I regain my composure than I am accosted by a group of three youths. Their initial approach is friendly enough. They pepper me with the usual questions of where I am from and what my name is. Introductory pleasantries done with, they begin asking for my belongings. I politely wave away their appeals and they stop tagging along. But we reprieve, my reprieve is only momentary. They run after me and get nasty. Surrounding me, their requests turn into belligerent demands. While two of them attempt to stop me and attract my attention, a nifty little fellow tries to slip behind me and pilfer my gear. Little friends. As we continue our dance of catch, I spot a small construction site with resting workers. I pray the adults will notice what is happening and chide the young imps for disrespecting foreign guests. But my fragile hopes are dashed when a group of men lift from their position and approach me. Their unsmiling faces, aggressive pointing, and antagonistic stances is all the body language I need to know that I am not among friends. I take my cue and charge into a quick sprint, bent on getting away from them once and for all. My tactic is a successful one. The rest of the way to checkpoint 5 skirts the village, and I run the entire way using the moonlight and glow sticks to guide me. I dare not use my hand lamp out of the fear that the light will only attract unnecessary attention. I am in a near maniacal state by the time I arrive at the checkpoint, knowing there are lone and female competitors behind me and concerned for their safety. I ask a volunteer to drive out to make sure that they are all right. Celebrating good company. I decide I have had enough solo adventure for the night and join forces with Brighton Chris Lowe and Korean bike Seongeol for the next leg to the overnight checkpoint, where hot water and a tent is available for those who wish to get a hot meal or get a kip. It is a welcome company. For the first time, I am able to take in the vast expanse of night sky and the brilliance of the stars. An incredible sense of tranquility and lightness washes over me and sets me at peace once again. We decide to have an extended rest at the overnight checkpoint. After tucking into most delicious packet of instant curry noodles and greedily slurping a steaming cup of hot chocolate, I retire to the makeshift tent and promptly fall to the ground. My attempts at a power nap are futile. The cold, hard, and uneven ground and reverberating snows from other resting competitors proved too much to contend with. I drift in and out of consciousness, and after a restless hour or so, decide enough is enough. I ready my gear for the final 35 kilometers post to camp. American Deborah Reimer joins me. She is one of my tent mates and our pace is matching. So I am grateful. The moon has disappeared behind thick clouds and it is almost pitch black. With the beams from our headlamps punching through the darkness, we set off into the night. If the plummeting temperature plays its part in eliminating our sluggishness and encourages a brisk pace. Deborah is not feeling her best, and I distract her mind by engaging her in conversation. We talk about the thing that has mostly occupied my mind all week food. Whether it is because I'm Singaporean or we love our food, or because I have messed up my food selection in this race, I have been thinking about food, glorious food. Deborah and I share our top dishes, exchange recipes, and educate each other on our cultural cuisines all the way in the otherwise uneventful section to checkpoint 7. From there on, we know there is only one more checkpoint between camp and, and us. More of the same, we agree. Let us build on our momentum and keep plugging away with that. We shoulder on. During a lull in our tete my energy suddenly bottoms out. I have no idea where that is coming from. I just know I am suddenly zapped. Physically and mentally, I am empty. I try to shield my deterioration from Deborah, wary of transmitting my negative energy to her, but it is no use. She somehow senses it and we look despairingly at each other. In a flash, our situation has turned from upbeat to hopeless. We slow to an agonizing crawl and then come to a complete stop. It feels as if someone has pulled the brakes on us. I'm done. I murmur. I have nothing left. My head drops to my chest, my hands drop to my knees, and then my knees drop to the sand. We need something from somewhere. I look pleadingly at Devara and see the same set of desperate eyes staring back at me. My mind is all at once scramble of frantic thoughts and hollow emptiness. For several tormenting minutes, we remain still. Out of the corner of my eye, I catch sight of the morning sun. I became aware of the unfolding black desert of volcanoes, sand and volcanic rock. The landscape gradually brightens in the ambient glow of dawn. Then I get up and announce, let us do it. Without a further word, Deborah and I make for the next checkpoint. We are stumped. We cannot explain the phenomenon that just took place. We practically shattered exhaustion and tore apart fatigue in a decisive split second. We reversed from form and made a dramatic about face. We took defeat and shoved it down its own throat. It was as if some invisible force suddenly took us and propelled us forward, as if the healing essence of the sun's warmth erased the hopelessness. I feel limitless. Now, all that is left is straightforward 8.5 kilometers final stretch to camp. Except it is not entirely straightforward. Just when we think we are not far from camp, we pass the midpoint marker. It is at first puzzling, then frustrating as we realize either the organizers or we have miscalculated our distances. It seems a cruel trick to discover we have over 4 kilometers to go when we expect to be on our final kilometers. Nevertheless, we press on and are soon passed by a group which includes Jeremy Pang and Dee Padakan. Jeremy and Dee are a young British couple on their first ever race. He is a chef and he is a pharmacist, and both are recreational runners at best. An ultra endurance event must be the ultimate way to put a relationship to the test, challenging a couple with its hours of trials and tribulations. There is little personal time. Can they stand each other for that long? Who decides on stops? Can they compromise on food and gear choices? Are they on the same page about planning or lack thereof? The way they run this race tells a lot about how they might run a life together. Due to our own matching speeds, we frequently pass each other along the trail or at checkpoints. I observe their interactions and learn a few things about making a relationship work. The revelations come not when the going is good, but when things start to get tough. When there is a disagreement, how best to pack their gear or whether to consume a particular medication, and one of them shows signs of annoyance or displeasure, the other automatically backs up. It is as if they have this inbuilt compulsion to respect whatever space the other is in and not to impose their own views, energies, and truths on the other. I have enormous respect for this very composed couple, and I am thus amused to hear Jeremy cursing under his breath and Dee apologizing on his behalf. The long stage is taking its toll, and we are all feeling the heat. It gets demoralizing to ascend a dune with hopeful expectations of seeing our camp, only to get that sinking feeling that comes with the slight sight of yet more dunes in front. But we all manage to hang in there and carry on. To give up and sit in the torturing heat means it runs counter to our human programming. In situations where there is no options other than to continue, there is no need to think. Without the false security of choices or safety nets, we always make the right decision to move forward. I know we have turned the corner and are on the ascent. Soon enough, self preservation turns to noiseless ecstasy, and we take the final stop into camp. The whole spirit of the race is encapsulated by fellow Singaporean Johnson Jacobs racing as part of a three-person team. He has done us proud by coming in second in the team category, pushing the leaders all the way to the end and giving them a huge run for their money. He emerges from their tent, helps me remove my pack, smiles, and then slips something into my hand. I peer at the little package and let my let out a cry of joy. It is bakwa, a Singaporean delicacy of spicy sweet barbecued pork. It is his last pack. The next day we celebrate with a ceremonious run through the pyramids of Giza to the formal finish line where pizzas and beer await. What are we celebrating? Without question, a fine finish and an astounding effort. More than that, we celebrate a coming together of humanity. In the barren desolation of a desert is formed an oasis of respect, love, and kindness. Strong friendships are forged, invitations to visit are issued, and commitments to the next event are made. As the official post race update articulates, the bonds made are strong, and all those who have taken part in this event are now part of a much wider family, one dedicated to seeing the world through different eyes and finding out what it truly means to be a member of the human race. In the midst of our festivities, I am pulled to a group of trigger happy photographers. It is the Korean contingent. My presence seems to have aroused a frenzy of gushing smiles, uncomprehending exclamations, and flashing cameras. Back, my companion during a section of the long stage to excitedly addressing them. Then he turns to me with a huge beam of his face and exclaims, "You are my hero." He senses my bewilderment and explains in his halting English. "Long stage, I bad leg. You wait for me." Thank you. These are the pictures of the race. Competitors meander along sand dunes towards the camp. Checkpoints are always a gratifying sight. Dunes serve as a warm up for the morning section. Breakfast time. Today's talking point feet. Ouch. That was chapter 1. And hope whoever is listening to this would have seen my emotions and would have enjoyed the section. And I hope all of you would be commenting on this, whoever goes through this. Thank you so much for